Breaking news!
A local developer forgets how to iterate over a list in Java after 5 years of experience as a Java backend developer. Witnesses say they were last seen frantically Googling how to increment an iterator in Java before vanishing into the abyss of Stack Overflow. If you've ever felt like an absolute fraud despite, actually writing code that works, congratulations, you have imposter syndrome. And guess what? Every real developer has it. If you don't wake up at least once a week thinking, wait, do I actually know how to code or have I just been faking it really well?
You're a phony!
Then you, my friend, are either a liar or an AI-generated LinkedIn guru. Here's the thing. Nobody actually knows what they're doing. You think senior devs just know how everything works? Nah. They're just better at Googling it without looking like they're Googling it. Trust me, the same people who write billion-dollar infrastructure still have to Google how to exit Vim. And don't even get me started on centering a div. Some of the smartest engineers in the world are out here losing battles to CSS like it's an Elden Ring boss fight. Meanwhile, Chad from your bootcamp is already pitching his AI-powered crypto startup. Imposter syndrome is just part of being a developer. A 2020 study found that over 58% of software engineers admit to feeling like frauds at some point in their careers. The other 42%? Probably too scared to admit it. Even Guido van Rossum, the guy who literally invented Python, once said he doesn't always feel like he knows what he's doing. So yeah, if the creator of an entire programming language feels like an imposter sometimes, you are definitely allowed to panic over a missing semicolon. But here's the truth no one tells you. Tech moves too fast for anyone to actually keep up. One day, you're a React expert. The next day, React announces React Quantum, and suddenly you need to unlearn everything you've ever known. JavaScript frameworks evolve faster than your ability to understand them. The moment you finally get comfortable, boom, new release. Everything's deprecated, and now you have to watch another 12-hour tutorial on YouTube just to feel like a functional human being again. So if you ever feel like you don't know enough, remember, neither does anyone else. The only difference between a junior and a senior dev, seniors are just better at hiding their Google searches. You think that guy in the corner debugging a massive enterprise application isn't copy-pasting Stack Overflow solutions with his whole chest? Think again. If you can write code, break code, then frantically search for why your code is broken, congratulations, you're a real developer. And finally, if all else fails, just remember, you're only a fraud if you get caught. Now excuse me while I Google how to write a for loop. Again, every other backend framework is absolute garbage. Trash, irredeemable. If you're not using Spring Boot, you might as well be writing your backend in Microsoft Word.
Who the starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
But I stand by it. Spring Boot isn't just the best backend framework. It's the only correct choice. And if you disagree, that's fine. It just means you enjoy pain. Let's start with Express.js. Ah yes, the minimalist framework that gives you absolutely nothing out of the box, and then expects you to build a production-ready API with duct tape and prayer. Want security? That's another package. Want request validation? Install middleware. Want to not lose your mind?
That's too damn bad!
Oh, and let's not forget the joy of debugging callback hell when your async functions decide to throw a tantrum in production. Express.js is great if you love reinventing the wheel over and over again until your project is just a stack of random NPM dependencies, half of which haven't been updated since the Obama administration. And then there's Django. But Django is Python. It's so clean and elegant. Yeah, until you need to customize literally anything, and suddenly you're wrestling with a magical ORM that either does everything for you or gaslights you into thinking your database doesn't exist. Enjoy writing 69 lines of configuration just to let a user log in. Ruby on Rails? Oh, you mean the framework that peaked in 2010 and now survives purely on nostalgia and startup founders who watched one tutorial in college. Have fun with your magical convention over configuration approach that works great, right up until you need to scale, and suddenly your app has the performance of a potato. Meanwhile, Spring Boot is out here actually solving problems. Need security? Built in? Need a database connection? One annotation. Need to scale? It's like Java looked at every other backend framework and said,
Please.
Before casually flexing its enterprise-grade reliability. Sure, people will say, but Java is verbose. Oh no, you had to type a few extra lines to define your classes properly. Meanwhile, JavaScript devs are sacrificing chickens to the TypeScript gods because their any type just crashed production. At the end of the day, Spring Boot is for people who actually want their backend to work, not just vibe. It's fast, secure, scalable, and doesn't make you question your life choices every time you deploy. So, to all the Express, Django, and Rails users out there, I hope you enjoy your suffering. Meanwhile, I'll be over here, deploying enterprise-grade applications while sipping my coffee. You ever open a Codebase and immediately feel like you've just walked into a haunted house? Files everywhere, no idea what connects to what? A mysterious temp utils final rework v2 folder that's somehow the core of the entire system. Welcome to modern development, where the stack is deep, the dependencies are questionable, and the only thing holding it all together is duct tape, hope, and maybe Kyle from QA. So what even is a modern codebase? It's the Wild West. You've got 12 microservices duct taped to a monolith, a CI/CD pipeline that requires sacrificing a goat to pass tests, and a front end built on 5 JavaScript frameworks that all hate each other. Your file tree looks like a forensic crime scene. The README hasn't been updated since the company pivoted 3 times ago. And if you dare ask why there's a GraphQL server running inside the CSS build process, someone will just whisper legacy reasons and walk away. But the real demon here? Technical debt. Because nowadays, it's not a side effect. It's the default. Every sprint adds just a little more, because deadlines don't care about clean code and the product manager just wants it to work. You patch something quick, you promise to come back to it later, and 6 months later, your backend is one big stack of unpaid code loans. Those to-dos, they're permanent residents now. And that one line that says, hacky fix later? Yeah, that's now in production. And this is where the vibe coders show up. You know the type. They're not reading the docs. They're not asking questions. They're just vibing. They toss in a set timeout here, a console.log there, and somehow, magically, it works. They deploy with their third eye. Their pull requests are pure jazz. No form, just function. They don't debug. They spiritually align with the stack until the bug leaves on its own. And it's terrifying because it works until it doesn't. I believe Bruce Lee was talking about them when he said, I fear not the man who has written 10,000 commit messages, but I fear the man who has committed one message 10,000 times. Since, they read books like this and write code like this. So why is every code base like this? Because it has to be. Tech moves so fast, you don't have time to architect perfection. You build fast, glue things together, and pray nothing explodes. Every new dependency is a gamble. Every refactor is a coin toss between improved performance and why does the login page delete users now? The stack grows faster than you can clean it. Your team is shipping code across 3 time zones and 12 meetings per day.
I'm tired, boss.
Nobody has the full picture, and nobody ever will. And here's the worst part. It's not just you. Every dev team is building this way. Startups, big tech, government contracts, everyone's shipping chaos wrapped in duct tape. Even trillion-dollar companies are out here deploying code that barely passed staging. That app you use every day? Probably running on a patch from 2018 written by someone who no longer works there. So yeah, the whole industry is just vibe coding its way through technical debt. You're not broken, you're just part of the system. Oh, and before I forget, I must tell you that Agile is the perfect system. Every sprint is flawlessly planned, tasks are evenly distributed, and teams collaborate in perfect harmony. In reality, every Agile sprint is a barely controlled dumpster fire, and somehow we just keep doing it over and over again. That's why I thought I should make a rant about it, so today we will be discussing the 5 phases of the average Agile experience. Sprint planning starts with a realistic workload discussion, which is corporate speak for let's cram an entire month's worth of work into 2 weeks. The product owner suggests an absurd list of tasks. Developers give cautious estimates, and then management asks, can you do it faster? A dev says, this will take 2 weeks. The product owner replies, what about 2 days? And then the Scrum Master, ever the optimist, says, remember, Agile is about adaptability. Translation, you're going to suffer, but in a flexible way. Ah yes, the daily stand-up, which was meant to be a quick check-in but has evolved into an endurance test. Half the team says, yesterday I worked on this, today I'll work on this, no blockers. The other half zones out completely, waiting for their turn to say the same thing. Meanwhile, the manager turns a 15-minute check-in into an interrogation, demanding a progress update on a feature that wasn't even started. Mid-sprint, everything is on fire. The simple 2-day feature is now a week-long nightmare full of edge cases. That tiny stakeholder request, it just broke half the app. Bugs are multiplying, morale is plummeting, and developers are suddenly having Wi-Fi issues to avoid another emergency meeting, because nothing says Agile like last-minute chaos. Sprint review time. Everyone scrambles to make half-working features look functional. A dev nervously presents a new login page while silently praying, Please don't click the login button. Please don't click the login button. Meanwhile, managers nod approvingly, pretending this was totally the plan all along. Then there's the retrospective, where everyone pretends things will be different next time. We should communicate better. We need more realistic estimates. And let's avoid last-minute changes are written down, promptly forgotten, and then ignored as the next sprint begins with the same disasters. At the end of the day, Agile is like a roller coaster with broken brakes. It's chaotic, terrifying, and yet for some reason we keep getting back on. It's basically like a toxic relationship, but professionally. But hey, it's still better than waterfall, probably. So you just got hired as a full-stack developer. Congrats. That means you're now the proud owner of every bug from the top of the UI all the way down to the deepest, darkest corners of the backend. And if the CI pipeline breaks, yeah, that's your job too. Oh, and the design needs tweaking? You've got Figma, right? Being full-stack today isn't just about knowing both front-end and back-end. It's about being a one-person dev team, DevOps included, with a splash of product manager and maybe even part-time therapist for your own burnt-out self. The term full-stack sounds empowering, but let's be honest, it's become shorthand for do everything because we don't want to hire more people. Companies love it because they get one person doing the work of three. You end up styling a button in one tab while debugging an auth token in another and trying to figure out why staging is yelling at you in base 64. This isn't about being versatile, it's about being stretched too thin. Context switching destroys productivity. You're constantly shifting gears, from front-end to back-end to DevOps and back. That kills your focus and leads to duct tape solutions. Instead of writing clean, scalable systems, you're just trying to keep the whole thing from collapsing before the next sprint demo. And let's talk about technical debt. When you're rushing to ship every layer of the stack yourself, you start making deals with the code devil. Quick fixes. To-dos you never come back to. Legacy decisions made at 3 a.m. that are now embedded deep in the project like cursed runes. The result? A modern code base that looks polished on the outside and is a total house of cards underneath. The burnout is real. You're not just a developer anymore. You're QA, system admin, DevOps, product consultant, and part-time psychic trying to guess what future bugs might haunt you. It's unsustainable. Even the industry is slowly waking up. More companies are hiring dedicated front-end and back-end roles again, realizing maybe, just maybe, no one person should do 5 jobs at once. Now, to be fair, full stack has its place. If you're solo building a product or working at a small startup, it can be empowering. You move fast, you learn everything, and you can ship a whole product on your own. But at scale, it's a trap. Expectations balloon, quality drops, and your soul quietly exits your body during your 5th emergency deploy of the week. Being full stack shouldn't mean full stress. It's time we stop treating it like the Holy Grail and start treating it like what it is. A tool, not a lifestyle. 1 div, 2 divs, 3 divs, 400 nested divs later and you realize you've made a terrible mistake. Welcome to modern web development, where HTML is just an endless Russian nesting doll of divs and centering. Something is a battle between you and the CSS gods. Once upon a time, HTML had actual meaningful elements. You had header, section, article, tags that made sense. Now, every website is a div soup. Need a button? Wrap it in a div. Need a grid? Div need to display text? You better believe that's inside a div. It's divs all the way down. And let's talk about centering. Want to center a div? Good luck. You'll need Flexbox, Grid, and a sacrificial offering. And even then, it'll only work in Chrome. Safari?
Oh, hell no! Hell no!
Edge?
Forget about it!
And if you think using Margin Auto will save you, oh sweet summer child, welcome to the abyss of CSS debugging. You'll add display flex, then align item center, then wonder why it's still off by 2 pixels before giving up and setting position absolute top 50% left 50% and transform translate negative 50% 50%. And somehow it's still broken on mobile. Frameworks aren't helping either. React, divs, Vue, more divs, Tailwind, class hell inside div hell. Before you know it, your entire code base is just whatever this is. And don't even get me started on Bootstrap. You thought it would make things easier, but now you're trapped in a world of .row, : MD-6, and container fluid, where you have no idea where one div ends and another begins. And why do websites feel heavier than ever? Oh, right, because we aren't just writing HTML anymore. We're generating, copy-pasting from Stack Overflow, blindly trusting AI code suggestions, and slapping in unnecessary divs like they grow on trees. And before you know it, your site loads 15 different CSS files, 200 kilobytes of JavaScript, and has a render blocking div that refuses to die. Congratulations. You just built the digital equivalent of a lasagna, layered, messy, and barely holding itself together. But hey, it's not your fault. It's just how the web works now. So next time you're drowning in divs, just remember, table layouts are looking real nice right about now. Anyways, if you enjoyed this chaos, don't forget to subscribe before this whole channel collapses under the weight of its infinite divs. Every tech job posting is a masterpiece of deception. A carefully crafted work of fiction designed to lure you in with promises of innovation, flexibility, and a fast-paced environment. Translation: you'll be drowning in Jira tickets, refactoring 10-year-old spaghetti code, and attending daily stand-ups where nothing actually stands up. Let's talk about the biggest scam of them all: entry-level positions that require 5 years of experience. Are you hiring a junior developer or a time traveler? These listings will have you questioning reality, like, did I miss a memo where we were all supposed to start coding in kindergarten? It's even worse when they ask for experience in a framework that hasn't existed for that long. Must have 5 years of experience in Bun. Bro, Bun didn't even exist 5 years ago. The only Bun I knew back then was the one I got with my burger. And then there's the classic competitive salary. Competitive for who? Because it sure isn't for you. These companies act like they're paying top dollar, but the moment you ask about salary expectations, they hit you with, well, what are you looking for? Oh, I don't know. How about something that covers my rent without making me live off instant ramen? The worst part? Some companies don't even list a salary range. They'll put you through 7 rounds of interviews just to hit you with an offer that wouldn't even cover a Netflix subscription. Now, let's discuss the phrase that should send you running in the opposite direction.
We do not speak his name.
Fast-paced environment. This doesn't mean exciting work and rapid career growth. No. This means you'll be doing the jobs of 3 people, sprinting between projects like a headless chicken, and getting pinged on Slack at 11 p.m. because we just need a quick fix. Translation: you will never know peace. Oh, but don't worry, because we're like a family. That's right, a family. A dysfunctional one, where your CEO is your emotionally manipulative parent, your manager is your passive-aggressive sibling, and HR is the uncle who only shows up to tell you you're not getting a raise this year. When a company says, we're like a family, what they actually mean is, we will guilt-trip you into unpaid overtime and then lay you off the second the stock dips. And let's not forget the biggest bait and switch of them all, remote work. This position is fully remote, but we'd love for you to come into the office a couple of times a week. You know, for team bonding. A couple of times a week, that's just an office job with extra gas money. The worst offenders are the ones who list remote roles, but when you apply, they hit you with, actually, we're only remote for people who already live within 30 miles of our HQ. That's not remote. That's a commute with extra steps. At the end of the day, every tech job posting is at least 50% fantasy. The key is learning how to decode them. If they don't list a salary, assume it's bad. If they say fast-paced, assume you won't sleep. And if they say, we're like a family, assume you're about to be trauma bonded to a sinking ship. But hey, if this video saved you from applying to a fast-paced startup with a competitive salary, hit like and subscribe. Otherwise, good luck with your next 12 rounds of interviews for a job that pays in experience. LinkedIn is the only place where someone can say, I won my first match of Fortnite, and somehow get 20,000 likes because they turned it into a story about perseverance in the face of hardships and exploiting opportunities. It's like a corporate version of Instagram, but everyone's flexing about PowerPoint presentations and projects they made after blindly following a 12-hour YouTube video over the course of 6 months. But it wasn't always like this. When LinkedIn first launched back in 2003, it was just a straight-laced platform for professionals to find jobs, connect with colleagues, and maybe humble brag about being proficient in Microsoft Office. It was a digital resume with a social layer. Useful, maybe a little boring, but functional. Then something happened. Around 2018, LinkedIn took a hard left turn straight into weird territory. Suddenly people were treating it like Facebook for suits. Instead of job postings and professional updates, your feed got flooded with oddly emotional confessionals and personal diary entries masquerading as leadership lessons. You'd see posts like, I failed my first interview, then I failed 5 more, but on the 6th, I got hired to refill the vending machine.
Bruh.
And that's when I learned, resilience is everything. At first, it was just 1 or 2 of these posts, but now it's like an endless scroll of emotional trauma repackaged as content marketing. This is the age of performative professionalism, where everyone is turning the most mundane life event into a corporate TED Talk. Spilled coffee? That's not just a mess. That's an opportunity to teach about adaptability. Got stuck in traffic? That's a metaphor for patience in Agile workflows. It's like everyone is trying to become a personal brand while also sounding like a life coach for HR interns. And don't even get me started on the weird inspirational memes. Half your feed is people crying at their desks with captions like, sometimes leadership is about knowing when to cry in the break room and when to cry in the server room. Like, bro, come on. Don't you cringe when you read this before posting it? Then there's the rise of the LinkedIn influencers. These are the people who write 10-slide carousels titled things like How I Negotiated a 7-Figure Salary Using Just Eye Contact and a Vision Board, and end every post with Let's Connect. It's all engagement farming. Some guy posts a photo of a brick wall and says, "This is what rejection feels like." But I kept building, and now he's got 10,000 followers and a podcast about hustle culture. The worst part is, the algorithm rewards this. LinkedIn isn't pushing actual job listings or well-thought-out technical articles. It's boosting posts that get comments and reactions, especially emotional ones. That's why crying in an elevator while holding a Starbucks cup gets more traction than an actual resume tip or market analysis. It's not a professional network anymore. It's emotional clickbait in a suit. So yeah, next time you log into LinkedIn, just remember, it's not about networking, it's about who can turn their breakfast into a business strategy. And if you haven't posted a photo of yourself staring pensively into the distance with a caption about leadership in the face of cereal shortages, are you even trying? But if you really want to boost your career but without the added cringe, why don't you check Codecrafters? Their platform gives you access to unique projects that will help you stand out from the competition without the clown shoes and nose. Want to build an HTTP or DNS server from scratch? Check. Want to learn how interpreted languages like locks work? Why not build your own interpreter then? Hell, you can even craft your own version of Git. All while others are still struggling to center that annoying div in their to-do app. You can start some projects free of charge, and if you use my link in the description, you can get yourself a whopping 40% off, so hurry up. So you want to become a successful software engineer, huh? Well, that's easy. Step 1, cry. Step 2, Google. Step 3, pretend you totally had it under control when someone walks by. Welcome to tech, where half the job is just convincing your code, your coworkers, and your imposter syndrome that you know what you're doing. Let's be real. There's this myth that to succeed in software, you have to be a 10x developer who breathes binary and writes flawless code in their sleep. But spoiler alert, that person doesn't exist. Success in this industry isn't about being a genius with 69 GitHub repos and a dark theme obsession. It's about learning how to learn, knowing when to ask for help, and surviving the madness without setting your hair on fire. Because here's the truth. Technology moves faster than your mental health can keep up. One week it's React, next week it's Quick. Suddenly everyone's building full apps in Markdown, and no one knows what an API is anymore.
Future's now, old man.
If you're trying to memorize every new tool, you're gonna lose. The real skill? Adapting. Knowing how to Google the right things, skim docs like a detective, and use AI like a tool to help you improve and understand new things better and faster, not to do your work for you.
I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
You don't need to know everything. You need to know how to learn anything fast. Let's talk about the thing no one tells you in coding boot camps. Your communication skills matter more than your code. Seriously. You could write the most beautiful, clean, optimized code in existence. But if no one understands what it does or why it's there, congrats. You've just built a black box no one wants to touch. Real success comes from being able to explain your work, ask for feedback, give updates, and collaborate without sounding like a sentient merge conflict. Talk to your team. Documentation is not a dirty word.
Read! Read!
And no, Slack is not optional. Think of it as an IDE, but for communicating with humans, not code. I know it might sound harder, but that's okay. Now let's address the greasy monster under every dev's bed. We all want to write clean code, scalable architecture, perfect systems, but deadlines laugh at your dreams. Sometimes you just have to duct tape that feature together and hope it survives staging. And that's okay, as long as you know it's FlexTape. This video is not sponsored by FlexTape, by the way. Great engineers don't eliminate technical debt, they manage it. They leave comments, create follow-up tickets, draw lines between "this is fine for now" and "this will set production on fire in 6 months." It's not about perfection, it's about progress with eyes wide open. But no one makes it alone. Behind every confident dev is a team, a mentor, a friend who explained Git rebase that one time at 2 a.m. The most successful engineers are the ones who ask questions, seek feedback, and help others grow. No one is judging you for not knowing everything. In fact, the dev who pretends they do? Yeah, that's the one who's about to create a pull request that will regress half the app back to version 0.13. So if you're here, wondering if you're cut out for this, if you're good enough, smart enough, fast enough, breathe. You're already doing it. You're learning, failing, Googling, building, and breaking things. That's the job. Every senior dev was once a junior dev who couldn't center a div. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. But listen carefully. The most important advice by far to becoming a successful software engineer is to, so what does your IDE say about you? Let's be real. Your code editor is basically your digital spirit animal. You might think it's just a tool, but to the rest of us, it's a personality type, a philosophy, a lifestyle choice. And if you think this doesn't apply to you, you're either lying or using Notepad, in which case, blink twice if you need help. Let's start with the king of the modern dev jungle, VS Code. If you use VS Code, you're the kind of person who walks into Starbucks, orders something with oat milk, and still finds time to install 6 new extensions before the drink's ready. VS Code users love control, but not too much. You want customization, but in a click to install kind of way. Your workspace has 10 tabs open, a linter screaming in the corner, Copilot writing half your code, and you're still Googling how to center a div. You don't have one theme. You have a rotating mood board of themes you switch depending on the project, the weather, and your emotional state. VS Code is the dev equivalent of having a Spotify playlist for every possible vibe. Now, if you're rolling with IntelliJ or anything from JetBrains, congratulations. You are a serious developer. You write Java, or Kotlin, or Scala, or something else that scares junior devs. You didn't choose IntelliJ. IntelliJ emerged fully formed from the enterprise dimension and whispered, "Come, let me refactor that for you." You believe in static typing, design patterns, and paying for software. You don't just commit code, you architect it. And every time someone suggests using a lightweight editor, you laugh in JVM. Then there's Vim. Oh, Vim. If you use Vim, I respect you. I also fear you. You operate purely from muscle memory, like a martial artist who's trained in complete darkness. You don't use a mouse because it's too slow. Your entire coding experience is basically an extreme sport. You once spent 3 hours configuring a .vimrc file. Called it a good day. Nobody taught you Vim, you were summoned by it. And let's be honest, part of you loves that other people can't figure it out. Leaving Vim is still a mystery to most of the internet. Control+C, number escape, maybe. Sacrifice a goat, possibly. Now, if Vim is the cult of key bindings, then Emacs is the entire religion. If you use Emacs, you don't code, you create art. You've probably written your own Emacs extensions in Lisp. You don't just open files, you open entire ecosystems. Need a calendar? Emacs. Need email? Emacs, need to order lunch. There's probably a plugin for that too. You're the kind of person who hears just use a GUI and responds with 300 lines of eLisp. Honestly, Emacs isn't even an IDE, it's a philosophical commitment. Let's pour one out for Eclipse. If you're still using Eclipse in 2025,
Stop it. Get some help.
you didn't start with Eclipse. Eclipse started with you. You probably had to use it in school or because the lead dev at your company refuses to upgrade anything past 2009. You have patience. You have strength. You waited 5 minutes for it to open, and you stayed anyway. You are a hero. Then there are the wild cards. Notepad users, I don't know who hurt you, but we're here for you. If you're writing full applications in Notepad, you either work for the government or you're legally classified as chaotic neutral. Oh, and watch Severance, by the way. Trust me, it's good. Nano users are usually SSH'd into a server, fixing a live bug at 2 a.m. with 6 heartbeats per minute. And Sublime Text users, you still haven't bought a license, have you? That, would you like to buy Sublime Text? Pop-up is basically part of the UI now. It's tradition, but jokes aside, here's the truth. Your IDE doesn't define your worth as a developer. It just says a lot about how you like to work, what you value in your tools, and how deep you're willing to go into the rabbit hole of customization. Some of us want quick, snappy tools with AI assistance. Some of us want full-stack IDEs with database introspection and code analysis. And some of us just want the terminal. That's okay. In the end, it's not about your editor. It's about how much time you spend customizing your theme instead of writing code. So whether you're out here rocking dark mode with neon syntax or living in the terminal windows like it's 1984, just know we see you. And we're judging you, but in a fun way. Now drop your IDE of choice in the comments and I'll overanalyze your entire personality like I'm doing a tech-themed astrology reading. And if you're still out here using Dreamweaver, blink twice. Help is on the way. Oh, and before I go, I must absolutely tell you that every developer will feel burned out sooner or later. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You can be the most passionate coder in the world, waking up every morning excited to write beautiful, efficient, bug-free code, until one day you realize you've spent the last 3 hours trying to debug an endpoint that refuses to work only to realize you've been writing /user/create instead of create in the endpoint's URL. That's when it hits you. The exhaustion, the dread, the urge to throw your laptop out the window and start a farm in the countryside. Welcome to burnout, the great equalizer of the tech industry. Day one of being a developer, you're bright-eyed and hopeful, ready to build the next big thing.
Many months later.
You're staring blankly at a Jira ticket titled Refactor Legacy Spaghetti Code and wondering where it all went wrong. Let's be real. Burnout is inevitable in tech. and no one talks about it enough. The real question is, why does it happen so much? Well, it turns out coding isn't the problem. Everything around coding is. First up, unrealistic deadlines. Because for some reason, every manager thinks features write themselves. You'll get assigned a task that should take a month, and then some executive waltzes in and says, "Can we ship this by Friday?" Sure. And while we're at it, let's just invent time travel to get it done. Then there's the toxic work culture disguised as hustle. The idea that you should love spending 80 hours a week coding because it's your passion. Spoiler alert, passion doesn't pay bills, and it sure as hell doesn't prevent your brain from melting after 6 hours of debugging.
Hello there.
This is Future Code Head speaking. Damn, you actually made it this far into the video? That's impressive. Most people would have rage quit by now after I roasted their favorite framework. But no, seriously, thanks. The support on these videos has been insane, and I appreciate every single one of you. And if you ever thought, wow, this guy's chaotic rants deserve a coffee, well, good news. You can now buy me a coffee. Links in the description, no pressure, of course, but just know. Every sip of caffeine fuels another unhinged tech rant, so really, it's a win-win. Okay, back to the video now. And let's not forget the constant learning. Tech moves so fast that the moment you finally understand React, some 18-year-old on Twitter is already announcing React 2.0, which deprecates React. But don't worry, companies care about your well-being. That's why they offer groundbreaking burnout solutions like a meditation app. Oh, your dev team has been working 12-hour days fixing a last-minute scope change? Here's a pizza party. That should totally compensate for your deteriorating mental health. And of course, there's the classic just take a break advice, which is hilarious because the second you do, you'll get an urgent Slack message. Hey, production is down. Can you hop on for a sec? You're sitting on a beach trying to relax, but instead, you're SSHing into a server from your phone like a true corporate prisoner. So what's the solution? Is there any way to survive burnout without quitting tech and becoming a goat farmer? Maybe. The obvious advice is to set boundaries, but let's be honest. If you're watching this at 2 a.m. while fixing a prod issue, you're already cooked, bro. You could change jobs, but tech culture is pretty much the same everywhere, just different flavors of chaos. You could try working for yourself, but now you're the one setting the unrealistic deadlines.
Now you have become the very thing you swore to destroy.
So really, the best way to survive burnout is to just accept the madness, embrace the chaos, find ways to make your job slightly less soul-crushing, or, just become a DevOps engineer. Those guys seem to be You spent hours refactoring your code, making sure every function is named beautifully, every line is formatted to perfection, and every unnecessary comment is removed. This is it, the pinnacle of clean, maintainable code. The kind of code that would make Fireship himself shed a tear. And then, just as you're about to push it, you get a message from Chad, the senior dev. Just ship it. It's just an internal feature. Clean code is supposed to be the holy grail of software engineering. It's supposed to make your code more readable, easier to maintain, and less prone to bugs. Every tutorial preaches it, every coding book worships it, and every junior dev believes in it like gospel. But have you actually seen a real-life codebase? It's a war zone, a graveyard of half-implemented ideas, to-do comments older than your career, and functions so long they qualify as novellas. The truth is, clean code is a beautiful idea that collapses the moment it meets a deadline. The company doesn't care how elegant your function names are. The product manager doesn't care if your code is readable as long as the feature gets delivered. And your boss cares about one thing, whether or not the project ships on time. That's it. You can spend all day debating the best variable names or whether to use single or double quotes, but at the end of the day, messy, rushed code that works will always beat pristine code that's late. And let's be honest, some of the most critical code in the world was probably written in a caffeine-fueled panic at 3 a.m. Facebook started as a hacked-together PHP project. Twitter? Originally a side feature for a podcasting company. Half the stuff keeping the internet running today is held together by a mix of duct tape, questionable decisions, and one guy named Dave who hasn't taken a vacation since 2011. Your last-minute, copy-pasted Stack Overflow solution might just be the foundation of your company's next big feature. Or it might cause a production outage. Either way, it's getting shipped. So, what's the takeaway? Should you write clean code? Sure, when you have time. Should you stress about it?
Oh, hell no!
The real skill isn't writing perfect code, it's knowing when good enough is actually good enough. Now go ahead, write that hacky fix, push it to production, and pray nothing breaks. And if all else fails, just comment to do, or refactor later, and never look at it again. You ever work on a team where the biggest bug isn't in the code, but in the people? Tech is amazing. We get to build the future, make magic happen, and sometimes change the world. But let's face it, there are a few people in the tech industry who can make you question why you ever left your last job at the coffee shop. From the 10x engineers who don't share their knowledge to designers who treat a misplaced pixel like a crime scene, you'll find people in every corner of tech that drive you to the edge. So, buckle up, because today we're diving into the 5 most annoying people in tech that you just can't avoid. Let's start with the 10x engineer, the lone wolf coder, the one who rewrites the entire codebase at 3 a.m. without telling anyone. You'll see a commit from them at 2:30 a.m. that breaks everything, and when you ask them about it, they just shrug. They don't believe in documentation because you should just know what I'm doing.
No.
They'll argue about tabs versus spaces, but won't write a single comment explaining their code. They're great at what they do, but terrible at collaborating. They break things, then move on to the next big feature, leaving chaos behind.
May chaos take the world.
Now let's talk about the design purist, the pixel police. This person zooms in 8,000% on a button to analyze its margins like it's a crime scene. They'll send you a 4-paragraph message explaining why your shade of blue is wrong or why the padding on the left side should be precisely 8 pixels instead of 6 pixels. They'll tell you the devs need 2 more days. Fine, whatever. You tell them the margins are off by 4 pixels.
So you have chosen death.
But here's the thing. Good design is important. While the pixel police can take it too far, finding a solid design system can save everyone headaches. Now, let's talk about the Agile Everything Manager. The manager who thinks the daily stand-up should be a 40-minute meeting because they love to ask, "Did anyone do anything yesterday?" for the 7th time. They love using buzzwords like, "let's circle back," but never give a direct answer. Agile can be great when done right, but when done wrong, it turns into a nightmare. You end up in a meeting that feels like an eternity, and by the end of it, you've forgotten what you're actually working on. They micromanage timelines for no reason, asking you to update a task that's been marked as done for 3 months. Next up, the DevOps gatekeeper, the "it works on my machine" guy. They've mastered the art of saying, "No, you can't deploy today." Why? Because it's not best practice, and they have a policy for everything. Of course, you don't know what these policies are, but they do. Every time you try to deploy a feature, they come up with new rules to prevent it.
You know the rules, and so do I. Say goodbye.
They think everything is too dangerous to deploy. They're the final boss of your project's lifecycle, blocking progress because of obscure policies. Now, the last one, the "I'm a developer too" manager.
I am a surgeon. I am a surgeon.
The manager who used to code years ago and now thinks they're still the most qualified person to refactor your entire project. They have outdated skills but delusional confidence. They throw around buzzwords like they invented them. You should implement microservices. Trust me, I know. They'll rewrite the API to make it more efficient, only for it to break the front end. They'll give you advice on CSS when they still think Flexbox is a new framework. They may mean well, but they often cause chaos by overstepping boundaries. So which one of these types have you encountered this week? Or, dare I ask, are you the "I'm a developer too" manager?
I am a surgeon.
Let me know in the comments. You ever notice how every week there is a new JavaScript framework that's going to change everything? One minute you're vibe coding with React, then suddenly you're being told you're a dinosaur for not switching to solid start, quick, or Astro's cousin twice removed.
Future's now, old man.
And let's not even talk about SvelteKit. I am kidding. Please don't threaten me, Svelte users. There's a whole new meta every month. Twitter's out here acting like you're committing a crime if you're still using Create React app like it's 2021. The hype train around frameworks is so fast, it's got no brakes. 1 second, everyone's hyping Remix. The next minute, it's out of the trend, and you're left wondering if you missed a memo or slept through a framework revolution. You feel like you've barely scratched the surface of your current stack, but the internet's already moved on, shouting, "Have you tried Nerd.js yet?" So you start feeling the pressure. That little voice in your head goes, "I should learn this new thing so I don't fall behind." So you go for it. You install the CLI. You read the docs, you build a little vibe check app.
And what's got bro down? Check your vibes.
And for those of you who are wondering, yes, I opened VS Code, created a new Angular project, and wrote the code for that app just to show it on screen for 7 seconds. And for the first 10 minutes, it's magical. You're writing less code, the build time is fast. You're convinced you just became this framework's the 10x dev, but then the cracks start to show. You hit a weird bug, you Google it. No Stack Overflow answers. ChatGPT and DeepSeek are more confused than you. All you find is a 2-day-old GitHub issue with 0 replies and 1 lonely thumbs up. You check the Discord, no one's active. You post your problem. The only reply is someone typing "same" with a crying emoji. Suddenly, your beautiful new framework feels like you're coding in the woods with no cell reception. The documentation? Yeah, it's minimalist. which is a nice way of saying it only tells you what might work if the stars align. You realize you don't even know how to deploy this thing. Versal has never heard of it. Netlify says, good luck. Your CI/CD pipeline throws its hands up and quits. Meanwhile, your original framework, the one you left behind like a forgotten ex, is still out there, doing its job, working just fine, with a rich ecosystem, battle-tested plugins, and answers for everything.
I'm doing my part.
But you're stuck trying to make hydration work in some beta feature of a tool still in early access. Look, bro, the truth is, most of the time, sticking to what you know and getting really good at it will take you further than constantly chasing the next hot thing. Unless your current setup is actively holding you back or can't handle your use case anymore, you're probably better off doubling down. Mastery beats novelty. Because when you split your focus across 5 different frameworks, you don't get 5 times the power. You get 5 times the confusion, 5 different build errors, and 5 daily crash outs. So go ahead, learn new stuff. If you're curious, that's great, but don't let the hype train derail your progress. Stick with what works, get insanely good at it, and you'll be the dev that junior engineers look up to. Not because you're trendy, but because you're solid. And hey, if this video saved you from installing yet another JavaScript framework just to build another crappy to-do app, maybe buy this tired code head a coffee. Links in the description. Otherwise, you'll find me throwing hands with perplexity because it refused to help me debug my Yay.js app that won't deploy. So you've decided to try Leetcode. Congratulations. Welcome to the software engineering version of Fight Club, except instead of throwing punches, you're throwing runtime errors at your sanity. If you've ever stared at a simple binary tree problem for 2 hours while questioning every life decision that got you here, don't worry, you're not alone. This is the shared trauma of the dev community. Leetcode, if you're lucky enough to not know, is a platform full of coding problems that companies, especially the big fancy ones, use to screen candidates. Not to test if you're good at writing scalable code, mind you, but to see if you can reverse a linked list on command like some kind of algorithmic magician. It's like the Olympics for computer science majors, except you don't get a medal, just carpal tunnel and a rejection email from Google. And yeah, we all start out thinking it's just practice. Just some warm-up problems before the big interview, but somewhere between problem 30 and 300, the realization hits. This has nothing to do with your actual job. Because out in the real world, no one is asking you to sort a rotated array in olog end time while the backend's on fire, and the product manager is asking if the font looks startup-y enough. Leetcode rewards memorization, not real understanding. You end up brute-forcing solutions, memorizing patterns like you're cramming for a college final, hoping the next problem is just another variation of the two-sum classic. And don't even get me started on the difficulty labels. Easy problems? Yeah, if you're a cyborg raised on assembly code and caffeine tablets. Medium means it's going to ruin your evening, and hard means you should have just gone to med school like your parents wanted. It doesn't stop there. Once you fall into the grind, Leetcode starts to eat at your confidence. You finish a 100-day streak, feel great, then completely blank in an interview when someone asks you to implement a try. Suddenly you're spiraling. Am I actually cut out for this? Why can't I remember how to merge intervals? The pressure to perform, to be
Stronger, smarter, better.
It wears you down. Some devs report serious burnout, especially when juggling jobs, school, or just, being a human. You start to equate your worth with your ability to code under fake pressure using fake problems that no one ever solves in real life. Well, it's imposter syndrome, but in Leetcode form. Like a boss fight, you can't win because the game keeps changing the rules. And here's the worst part. You still have to do it. Yep. You can rant, meme, scream, and cry, but if you want to land a job at a big tech company, there's still a 90% chance they'll hit you with design and LRU cash in the first 10 minutes.
Who the starts a conversation like that? I just sat down.
You could show them a FullStack app, beautifully written, tested, and deployed with CI/CD pipelines, and they'll be like, cool, now code a red-black tree. On a whiteboard with a marker that doesn't work. We hate it, but we do it, because it works.
That's what they want you to think.
There are alternatives like building projects, system design prep, or doing real-world open-source work. But those rarely replace Leetcode. They just decorate it. It's like putting whipped cream on a Brussels sprout. Looks better, still sucks. So yeah, every dev ends up hating Leetcode. It's the year 2035, and JavaScript is still holding the internet hostage. You need an NPM package just to microwave your lunch. Elon's Neuralink 4.0 lets you binge TikToks with your eyelids. And yes, Apple now finally sells a self-driving car, but it only works if you buy 4 dongles, subscribe to a monthly steering license, and accept that turning left is a premium feature. But okay, back to the present. You're wondering where tech is actually going. Fair enough. The short answer? It's weird, and about to get weirder. So let's try to break it down before the next AI startup drops and rewrites half of your career path overnight. Let's start with the obvious elephant in the data center. It's not just generating Studio Ghibli photos of famous cutscenes, it's writing code, building apps, squashing bugs, and suggesting architecture patterns like it's your unpaid, overachieving intern. Tools like GitHub Copilot have gone from autocomplete on steroids to full-on junior devs in your IDE. And then there's tools like Cursor, Claude Code, and Firebase Studio to help you improve your vibe coding efficiency. Sure, they sometimes break and start spitting out mumbo-jumbo, but let's be real, so do humans. The difference? These tools don't sleep, eat, or ask for a raise. And while that might sound terrifying, most devs aren't being replaced, they're being upgraded. The skill shift is real. It's less about memorizing syntax and more about managing workflows, checking AI outputs, and learning faster than the machines. Which brings us to the rise of the no-coders, the low-coders, and the prompt sorcerers. Or basically vibe coders. Because now, anyone with Wi-Fi and a grudge against complexity can build legit software using tools like Webflow, Framer, or Bubble. And if you're not good at drag and drop, you can just talk to ChatGPT like it's your tech co-founder. The definition of developer is getting blurry. Prompt engineering is apparently a job now. And while old school devs might scoff, the reality is, if you can ship fast, solve problems, and make shareholders happy, you're a dev, even if you've never hit the semicolon button in your keyboard. Of course, while everyone's arguing about whether HTML is a programming language, the stack wars rage on. JavaScript still refuses to die, but now it's being challenged by Bun, which promises to run faster than your caffeine-cracked brain, and Rust, which every dev claims to love but secretly cries over. Meanwhile, Quick wants to kill hydration altogether and make websites faster than your grandma can close a pop-up ad. The point is, the future stack is going to keep changing. Blink once and your favorite framework is deprecated. Blink twice and someone just built a backend with Notion. Now let's talk about how we'll actually work in this chaotic new future. Because the office, it's mostly dead. Remote and async teams are the new norm. Your next coworker might be in another time zone, another country, or might not even be human. AI is already helping schedule meetings, write documentation, and draft Jira tickets that are somehow still half-baked. Collaboration tools are turning into AI-infused dashboards where human input is optional and Slack is basically an MMO for confused engineers. Communication is becoming the most critical dev skill, not code, not design, talking like a real human so your teammates or bots know what you're doing. Look, no one knows exactly what's coming next, but if you keep learning, building, and occasionally screaming into the void, you're doing great. The future's weird, but hey, it's still okay as long as you remember when buying software meant paying once and actually owning it? Yeah, that era's gone. Now, everything's a subscription. You don't buy a tool, you rent it until you die or switch careers. Welcome to the disappointing reality of SaaS, better known as Scam as a Service. Let's unpack how we got here, why your bank account is crying, and how we all became victims of beautifully designed extortion. It all started with good intentions. SaaS was supposed to be the future. No more installations, no more endless version updates. Just open your browser and boom, you're productive. Salesforce was one of the first to make this pitch back in the early 2000s, and people bought into it hard.
Shut up and take my money!
The idea was simple. Access tools anywhere, share data in the cloud, and always stay updated. And it made sense for businesses. But fast forward 20 years, and now even your to-do list app wants $10 a month because it syncs across devices. Here's where it got messy. What began as convenience turned into corporate greed wrapped in minimalist UI. Every SaaS product now comes with 4 pricing tiers, none of which include the one feature you actually need. Want calendar sync? That's the pro plan. Want dark mode? That's team tier. Want to export your data? Hope you enjoy the enterprise sales call experience? And don't even try using it for free. Your experience will be so neutered. It's basically a demo reel for what you could have if you just gave up and paid.
What inspired you to build a second Krusty Krab right next door to the original?
Money!
But it's not just the pricing. SaaS companies figured out how to trap you psychologically. They know that once you've built your entire workflow, migrating to another tool is like moving out of a house you built with your bare hands. They add little touches to increase that stickiness. Email nudges, usage analytics, fear of loss prompts. Even canceling is a chore. You try to unsubscribe and suddenly you're in a guilt trip funnel with sad puppy eyes asking, "Are you sure you want to leave?" And it's not just the big guys. Every solo dev on Twitter is now launching their own SaaS micro product. It's like the gold rush, but instead of gold, it's recurring revenue from a glorified spreadsheet. Someone builds an app that tracks your water intake, slaps on a $6.99 per month price tag, and calls it hydration as a service. Everyone's chasing MRR like it's a religion, and we, the users, are just tiny wallets with legs. So you think, maybe I'll just self-host. You go full Linux wizard, spend a weekend setting up Docker containers, and feel powerful. Until the updates break everything, and you realize you've spent 6 hours configuring something that still doesn't have a working calendar view. Freedom is technically possible, but it comes at the cost of your time, your patience, and occasionally your sanity.
What did it cost?
Everything.
And yet, all hope is not lost. There are still some ethical devs out there, ones who charge you once, give you lifetime access, and don't lock your data in a vault like it's a hostage. Tools like Obsidian or open source projects with real communities still exist. They may not have the fanciest dashboards, but at least they don't charge you monthly for a checkbox. So yeah, SaaS could have been the hero. Instead, it became the landlord of the internet. A beautiful scam that charges you to do what pen and paper used to handle for free.
You're one of those heroes, aren't you?
Not anymore.
But hey, if you've ever paid for a subscription that made you feel personally offended, drop it in the comments. Misery loves company, especially when it's billed monthly. JavaScript was supposed to be a quick little scripting language. Nothing serious, nothing world-changing, just a side project slapped together in 10 days. Fast forward to today, and somehow it's running your fridge, your car, your grandma's toaster, and probably half the gotcha games you rage quit daily. How did we get here? Well, it all started back in 1995. Netscape, the company that basically built the early internet browser scene, realized it needed a way to make websites more interactive. So they turned to Brendan Eich, sorry if I butchered the pronunciation, and said, "Hey, can you whip up a new programming language? Oh, and you have like 10 days. Brendan did what anyone would do under that kind of pressure. He improvised. He cobbled together a language that was kind of inspired by Scheme, a little bit like Java, and deeply cursed from the start. Originally, they called it Mocha, then LiveScript, and finally JavaScript, purely as a marketing stunt to ride Java's hype wave. Spoiler, it had almost nothing to do with Java. Now you'd think a language born in 10 days with zero time for second thoughts would crash and burn, but no. Netscape's browser exploded in popularity, and JavaScript came baked right in. Microsoft, not wanting to be left out, created its own copycat version called JScript. Suddenly, every browser had some flavor of JavaScript, and if you wanted your website to actually work for real people, you basically had no choice but to use it. And then came Ajax in 2005, kicking off the era of Web 2.0 and making dynamic, real-time websites actually possible. JavaScript wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, like a stubborn weed in your backyard. From there, JavaScript did what any stubborn technology does. It started taking over everything. Node.js popped up in 2009, making it possible to run JavaScript on servers. Frameworks like Angular, React, and Vue turned front-end development into a JavaScript empire. Suddenly, you weren't just using JavaScript for websites. You were building mobile apps, desktop apps, games, even whole operating systems with it. Today, JavaScript is like glitter. It's everywhere. You'll never be able to fully get rid of it, no matter how hard you scrub. But here's where things get messy. JavaScript's wild. Hacked together roots never went away. It's a loosely typed language where 5 plus 5 gives you 55, and 5 minus 5 gives you 0. Because reasons, I guess? NPM, the Node Package Manager, became the biggest package registry ever, filled with millions of libraries, some of which exist purely to left pad a string with spaces. One guy unpublished his left pad library in 2016 and broke half the internet. Meanwhile, JavaScript developers live in constant fear of dependency hell, where updating one small library might randomly nuke your entire project. And don't even get me started on the endless framework churn. Every 2 months, there's a new hot framework promising to save us, and every year we add another one to the pile.
I'll put it with the others.
Homer!
So here we are. JavaScript wasn't designed to run the world. It wasn't even designed to last longer than a few marketing cycles, but it did.
I'm tired, boss.
It clawed its way into every corner of tech, powered by browser wars, corporate chaos, and sheer dumb luck. It's messy, it's brilliant, it's cursed, and it's not going anywhere. Next time you're yelling at your screen because some random NPM package broke your build at 2 a.m., just remember this famous Bruce Lee quote. Congratulations, you just deployed to production and took down the whole website. Welcome to software engineering. Please grab your complimentary stress ball on the way out. Look, making mistakes is part of the job, but some mistakes hit harder than others, the ones that turn your weekend into a horror movie. So today, let's talk about the absolute worst mistakes you can make as a software engineer, and more importantly, how to dodge them. First up, over-engineering everything. You have a simple problem. Build a grocery list app. You need a text box, a save button, maybe a way to check things off. But suddenly you're spinning up 6 microservices, Kafka pipelines, and a Kubernetes cluster. Also, someone can buy bananas. Over-engineering is like using a rocket launcher to swat a fly. It's impressive and completely unnecessary. Stick to the actual problem. Follow the KISS principle. I keep it simple. Stupid. Your future self will thank you when you're debugging this thing at 3 a.m. Next mistake, skipping tests. You think, I'll write them later. You ship the code. It works. Life is good.
Many months later.
Prod goes down, nobody knows why, and the only documentation you have is a vague memory of, it worked on my machine. Not writing tests is like building a bridge and saying, we'll check if it holds up later. According to GitLab's DevSecOps 2023 report, teams that prioritize testing catch problems earlier and ship faster. So yeah, tests aren't optional. They're survival gear. Third, suffering in silence. You're stuck on a bug for 5 hours straight, convincing yourself, I'm close. Spoiler alert, you're not. You're lost in the matrix. And meanwhile, a coworker could have solved it in 10 minutes if you just asked. Real engineers know when to call for backup. Explaining your problem out loud, even to a rubber duck, can literally help your brain find the solution faster. Struggling alone doesn't make you a hero. It makes you tired and late. And finally, getting emotionally attached to your code. You wrote a beautiful function. It's elegant. It's perfect. And then your teammate says, this is confusing. We should rewrite it. Suddenly you're ready to go to war. Remember, your code isn't your child. It's a tool. If it's wrong, ugly, or confusing,
Kill it! Kill it with fire!
keeping bad code around because you like it is like keeping expired milk because you paid for it. Nobody wins, so don't overbuild. Don't skip tests. Don't suffer alone. And don't worship your code like it's sacred scripture. Imagine this. You go to make a sandwich, just a simple turkey on toast situation. And by the time you come back, your AI agent has spun up a backend, deployed it to the cloud, written integration tests, and is now asking you to review the PR it just created. This isn't sci-fi anymore. This is happening. AI agents aren't just here to help us code faster, they're starting to be the developers. And while we were busy arguing about what type of injection is best, they've been quietly learning our jobs in the background. So, what exactly are AI agents?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Me? Just hanging around.
Think of them as your classic smart intern, except this intern doesn't sleep, doesn't ask questions, and weirdly knows how to Dockerize your app better than you do. Unlike your everyday AI tools like ChatGPT or Copilot that just autocomplete or answer questions, AI agents like Devin, GPT Engineer, or AutoGPT can handle full software dev lifecycles. These things don't just write code snippets, they plan tasks, fetch dependencies, deploy applications, and even run automated tests. They're not just suggesting code, they're executing it, verifying it, and then showing you a nicely formatted report that makes you question your own productivity as a human. We didn't get here overnight, though. Back in 2010, AI meant that Clippy tried to guess you were writing a letter. Fast forward to 2015, and people were getting hyped over VS Code suggesting the correct variable name. Then came Copilot in 2021, and we all lost our minds over it, writing entire functions. Now in 2025, we've got agents that make your FullStack project while you're still looking for the perfect Tailwind class for a button. It's like we gave Stack Overflow a gym membership, a job title, and root access. These agents can already do more than most of us want to admit. They can create entire web apps from scratch. Backend logic, database, API endpoints, you name it. They'll containerize it, hook up CI/CD, generate unit and integration tests, and even run lighthouse audits on your front-end performance. It's like hiring a senior dev, a DevOps engineer, and a QA tester for free, and instantly. The only thing they haven't mastered yet is silently judging your use of inline styles. But let's not get too excited, because while these agents are fast, they're also kind of like a super confident junior dev. They'll do everything you ask, even when it makes no sense. They hallucinate APIs. They make up error codes. They once thought banana was a valid database model name. And the worst part? They act like they know exactly what they're doing. If you've ever tried debugging a problem caused by AI-generated code, you'll understand the pain of staring at 300 lines of perfectly logical nonsense while wondering if this is how Skynet starts. So are we all out of jobs? Not quite. AI agents are extremely good at execution, but they still rely on human intuition, judgment, and that beautiful chaos we call client feedback. You still need to define the problem, guide the architecture, review the output, and occasionally tell the AI that no, make it more modern, does not mean convert everything to dark mode and add Comic Sans. Human developers aren't being replaced, we're just being upgraded.
Upgrades, people, upgrades!
Whether we like it or not. The ones who thrive won't be the ones fighting the tools, they'll be the ones who know how to wield them. like a developer samurai, but with a VS Code extension instead of a sword. So yeah, AI agents are taking over software development. They code faster than us, they never sleep, and they never forget a semicolon. But they also can't fully understand user context, business goals, or the difference between an MVP and a mess. That part's still our job, for now. Just don't be surprised when your next code review is done by a bot that calls you the bottleneck.
Please, this is not your fault.
You're right. It's not my fault. It's your fault!
What? Elon Musk once said that AI is far more dangerous than nukes, which is a totally normal thing to hear when all you wanted to do was automate a boring Excel task. But here we are. 1 minute, AI is helping you write emails faster, and the next, it's apparently plotting to take your job, your house, and your lunch money. But is that actually true? Is AI really coming for your job, or is this just another case of billionaire fear-mongering? First, let's talk about what's actually happening. Yes, AI is getting smarter, scarily so. It can write, code, design, analyze data, and probably beat you in chess while doing all of that simultaneously. But before you start packing your bags for a new career in goat farming, let's remember that AI doesn't have creativity, judgment, or the ability to understand context the way humans do. Ever tried making ChatGPT write a joke?
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass up.
It might sound human, but it's missing that spark of real intelligence. It's like an intern who can generate an entire report in seconds, but has no idea what any of it means. Now let's look at who's actually at risk. AI isn't stealing jobs, it's replacing the repetitive, boring ones first. Think data entry, basic customer support, and some coding tasks that are literally just copy-pasting Stack Overflow solutions. If your job is purely predictable, AI might have its eyes on it. But here's the twist. The more creative, complex, and human your work is, the harder it is for AI to replicate. Software engineers, designers, writers, these roles aren't going extinct. They're just evolving. Instead of writing boring boilerplate code, developers are now focusing on solving bigger problems, building better systems, and ironically, figuring out how to make AI work better. And let's be real, AI isn't perfect. It still hallucinates facts, generates complete nonsense, and sometimes just makes up code that looks right but will absolutely crash your production environment. It's like that one overconfident junior dev who commits an untested change and then goes home early. Companies aren't going to blindly replace people with AI unless they want their entire infrastructure to explode.
Damn.
So what's the move? If you want to future-proof yourself, learn how to work with AI instead of against it. The best developers aren't scared of AI. They're the ones using it as a cheat code to automate the boring stuff so they can focus on more interesting challenges. Think of it this way. Calculators didn't kill math. They just stopped people from wasting time on basic arithmetic. AI is the same. It's a tool, not a takeover. So, to answer the question, will artificial intelligence replace you?
No.
It's replacing the tasks that slow you down. So instead of panicking, start learning how to make it work for you. And if all else fails, you can always start that goat farm. And don't forget to like and subscribe, or the AI overlords will personally rewrite your resume in Comic Sans. Remember Google Reader, that perfect RSS feed tool that let you actually keep up with the internet without drowning in algorithm garbage? Yeah, Google took it out back and shot it in 2013. And guess what? They're probably coming for something you love next. But why? Why do tech giants keep killing products that people actually like? Is it just corporate greed? Are they allergic to success? Or do they have some master plan that none of us can comprehend? The truth is, there's no grand conspiracy, just a brutal, heartless logic. Take Google, for example. There's an entire website called Killed by Google that documents the graveyard of over 290 products they've shut down. And it's not just Google. Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta have all done the same thing. Remember Amazon's Fire Phone? No? That's because it lasted about 5 minutes before getting yeeted into oblivion. Google Stadia? Supposed to be the future of cloud gaming. Dead. Microsoft Zune?
Hey, that's pretty good.
Also dead. These companies don't care if something is useful or beloved. If it's not making them mountains of money, it's disposable, and that's the first reason they kill good products. They don't make enough money.
Where is the money?
It's not that these products were losing millions, it's that they weren't making billions. Google Stadia could have been a solid gaming platform, but Google looked at the numbers and said, nah, not worth it. It's like if a billionaire walked past a $100 bill on the ground and didn't bother picking it up because it wasn't a stack of gold bars. These companies aren't just trying to make a profit. they're trying to dominate entire industries. If a product isn't bringing in absurd amounts of revenue or serving their larger goal, like feeding their ad empire or collecting valuable user data, then it's gone. But sometimes it's not about money at all. Sometimes products die because of internal politics. Tech companies aren't these perfectly organized machines. They're chaotic messes, full of competing teams fighting over resources. Maybe one executive championed a product, but then they left the company, and suddenly no one cares about keeping it alive. This is why Google's messaging apps keep changing every 5 minutes. Google Hangouts, Google Chat, Google Allo, Google Duo. Every time a new team gets control, they decide their version is the one that should exist, and everything else gets deleted. It's like a reality show, but instead of people getting voted off the island, entire products just vanish. And then there's the pivot excuse. Tech companies love chasing the next big trend. One day, it's all about VR. The next, AI is the future, and VR is old news. Facebook became Meta because they bet everything on the metaverse.
Check this out. Wow. So that's pretty neat.
And then immediately abandoned it when they realized no one wanted to live inside a virtual cubicle. Google does this constantly. They drop old projects the second they find a shinier toy to play with. So if a product doesn't fit their current vision, even if it works perfectly fine, it's dead. At the end of the day, tech companies don't have to care about the backlash because they're too big to fail. Google could delete Gmail tomorrow, and we'd all still be Googling best Gmail alternatives on Google. Microsoft could kill off a useful tool, and you'd still be using Windows. They control so much of the internet that even when they make terrible decisions, we're all stuck with them. So how do you protect yourself?
That's the neat thing. You don't.
But you can avoid becoming too dependent on big tech services, use open source alternatives, self-host when possible, and most importantly, never get too attached. Because if a product isn't making billions, it's only a matter of time before it gets the axe. Imagine getting hacked because of a single HTTP header you didn't even know existed. That's right. Just when you thought middleware was your friend, Next.js pulls a fast one and says, oops, we forgot to secure that part. Meet X middleware subrequest, the header that was quietly doing its job, until someone figured out you could totally lie to it and skip security like you're walking past TSA with a fake badge and too much confidence. So here's the deal. In Next.js, especially when you're using middleware to do cool things like authentication, redirects, rewrites, and all the fancy stuff at the edge, the framework automatically adds a special header called X middleware subrequest. It's their way of keeping track of internal subrequests to avoid middleware running in loops or triggering itself. Seems smart, right? Except there was one tiny problem. The framework trusted that header way too much, and I mean way too much, because anyone on the internet could send a request with X middleware subrequest set to true or something like that in the headers, and Next.js wouldn't blink. It just accepted it like, cool, you must be middleware. No ID check, no validation. It's like letting anyone access your bank account just because they promised they were you just with a new hoodie. And yeah, this isn't just a theoretical oopsie. This got a CVSS score of 9.1, which in cybersecurity terms is basically,
it was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
CVSS stands for Common Vulnerability Scoring System. It's how we rate how bad a security flaw is. And anything above 9? That's critical. That's fix it now, or change careers territory. Now this might sound a little niche, but it's actually kind of terrifying. Let's say you wrote some middleware logic that checks if this header exists, and if it does, it skips auth or rate limiting because you assume it's an internal request. Well, guess what? An attacker just skipped your login or dodged your security filters because they faked the header. This wasn't just a minor oopsie, this was the kind of exploit that could let someone bypass access control and potentially mess with SSR caching and routing logic too. By the way, if you're into understanding systems this deep and not just copy-pasting your way through life, you should check out Codecrafters. It's like a gym for your brain, where you build real things like Docker, Git, or SQLite from scratch. No fluff, no hand-holding, just pure engineer grind. Links in the description if you want to sign up for free and get 40% off the premium plan, so go earn that 10x badge. So, what did Vercel do? They fixed it, of course. And here's the list of updated versions. Starting from now, externally provided X middleware subrequest headers are stripped out by default. If someone tries to fake it, Next.js gives them the side eye and deletes it.
Wait a second. Something's not right here. You were just making it look like you were playing. You're a phony! Hey, this guy's a great big phony!
Which is good. That's what should have happened in the first place. If you're running on any version below that, bro, you gotta upgrade, like right now.
Upgrades, people, upgrades!
This isn't a wait until the next sprint kind of fix. This is a stop what you're doing and patch your app situation. But let's say you can't upgrade yet. Legacy app, approvals, the usual nightmare. you can still protect yourself. Make sure your app doesn't trust that header if it comes from a client. Strip it manually before any logic touches it. Don't use it as a gatekeeper. You wouldn't let a stranger walk into your server room just because they said they work there, right? Same principle. So yeah, one more lesson from the wild world of web dev. Don't trust user input, even when it's in a fancy header with a lowercase x. Stick to what you know, master your stack, and double-check the stuff that looks boring, because that's usually where the chaos hides. And if this saved your app or saved you from a panic attack during deploy, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe, and maybe buy this tired code head a coffee. Links in the description.